Self as context is often described as the observer self, which is a term that ACT definitely did not create or come up with. The concept of the observer self, that there's a you behind your eyes observing your experience, noticing the sensations you're experiencing, your body, the thoughts in your head, everything you see in front of you, is a very old tradition. And while the observer self is definitely one aspect of self as context, I think there are a lot of layers that are often missed and are really crucial to showing up to the world as the person that we want to be, and then being able to connect and identify and empathize with other people. The inverse of self as context is self as content. This comes about when we get really fused, really stuck to, really narrowed in, really defined by the titles or labels we give ourselves. And we all have labels, whether it is our relationships, our careers, our hobbies or interests, or disability status, or cultural, traditional, faith, ethnicity, race, status. We all have labels that we give ourselves and that society gives us. And these aren't inherently good or bad or right or wrong, right? I'm a daughter and a friend and a sister and a psychologist. I'm a dog mom. And so take a moment to just check in on what are those I am blank labels that you really connect with for yourself. As I said, labels aren't inherently bad. They're one way that we make sense of ourselves, of our purpose in this life, our role. It gives us kind of quick shortcuts of how we should behave in a certain situation, because even if we're showing up authentically as ourselves might be a little bit different when I'm talking to clients versus when I'm talking to my best friend. But if our worldview of who we are, if our identity is boiled down to maybe one or two labels, when things change, we might have a really difficult time adapting. Think of a mom whose kids went off to college and moved out of the house, or a career person who just retired and now they're trying to figure out who they are and what value they have in this world and what their purpose is. When we identify with a certain label and that label is no longer available to us or doesn't fit us anymore, if that is who we are, if we conceptualize ourselves as this identity or this label, we might feel absolutely empty or worthless or purposeless when that label's gone. So what self as context helps us do is acknowledge that, there's that observer self, there's this me behind my eyes experiencing the world, but it also helps conceptualize ourself as something that's intangible, something that moves through time, that maybe is not always the same, but is there every step of our life as we move through all of these labels, as we move through all of our experiences. And if we pull in the present moment awareness, we pull in the values, it gives us an idea of who that I is, right? I am here now, and I'm choosing to show up in the world that's consistent with the type of person that I want to be and what's important to me. And just like this moment might change and these values might change, it's still a more stable way of viewing ourselves and allowing ourselves to flexibly adapt to the world, because it's always changing. But here's the fun part. The I perspective isn't the only one. There's this cool thing called Deictic frames. Basically, there are these frames of perspective. There's I, you. There's here, there. There's now, then. And we can mess around with these different frames, create different combinations to allow us to learn different things and connect with people in different ways. So, for example, being present is I, here, now. If we're reflecting on our past and who we were when we were younger, showing kindness to our younger self or empathy or understanding, that might be I, there, then. If we're trying to understand another person's perspective, it's you, here, now, or you, there, then. And the more we begin to practice kind of taking our eyes, the person behind our eyes, and just placing them in different times and spaces and people, the better we get at empathizing with other people, the easier it is to show kindness to ourselves, because it's almost always easier to show kindness to our younger selves, who was maybe more innocent, in need of protecting, than the fully grown adult that we are today. So this is such an underutilized tool for developing perspective taking and empathy. We can understand our own experience in this moment, but then we can explore our experience across time, as well as other people's experiences. allow us to come to a better place of understanding, even if we're not always okay with what happens or condone what's happened in the past. And the more we can connect with ourselves as the witness to our life and our experience in this moment right now, the more opportunity we have for taking tiny steps towards the things that matter to us. Let's check that out next.